There are moments in history when the air seems to change consistency, when the world holds its breath as if sensing the arrival of something greater, stronger, more decisive than anything it has experienced before. It's a sensation that arises within the boundaries of the soul, a warning that doesn't explode in noise but settles slowly, like a shadow lengthening before sunset. In this fragile time, as certainties waver and cities become nascent silences of an uncertain future, more and more people sense that we are entering a new phase, marked by events that will strike deeply and without warning. From every part of the world, signs emerge that interweave, calls that come not only from daily chronicles but also from spiritual places that have spoken with a clear voice for decades. In Medjugorje, that small village transformed into a spiritual beacon for millions of people, the heavens have repeatedly indicated that humanity is approaching a decisive time. No words of condemnation, no shouted announcements, only a constant appeal for interior preparation, for strength of heart, for spiritual clarity. Each message seems to become more urgent, as if the mother were taking her children by the hand to guide them through the current that is about to rise. Cities, the places where life pulses without respite, are becoming the centers of a change that will advance with power. There is an invisible movement growing in the streets, in the buildings, in the daily rhythm, and this movement anticipates a transformation that will deeply touch many communities. Not a blind punishment, but a natural consequence of a world that has forgotten what gives balance and light. When the spiritual order is ignored for too long, reality finds a way to awaken, and that awakening can be intense, even harsh, especially for those places where the distance from the sacred has become an abyss. Medjugorje has spoken for years of spiritual protection, of a refuge that is not built with material structures, but with the fidelity of the heart. It is an invitation to vigilance, to awareness, to choice. Because what is coming will not affect everyone in the same way. Some cities will bear the greater weight, while others will suffer only an echo. But all will be touched by a change that will cross continents like a determined wind, capable of shaking and revealing. In this scenario, preparing means understanding that the time of superficiality has ended. A new chapter is advancing, and those who know how to listen to the signs already perceive it breathing at the edges of the present. Now is the moment to illuminate the soul, to fortify the spirit, to recognize that nothing happens by chance when heaven warns so far in advance. And what is coming requires a strength that is born only from within. Stay with me until the end of this video, because in the final words, you will find crucial guidance on how to prepare for what is coming. In the United States, more than in any other nation in the world, the contrast between light and darkness manifests with impressive force. It is a country built on ideals of freedom, prosperity, and renewal, but traversed by profound tensions that have been shaking its spiritual foundations for years. Many prophetic messages remind us that the strongest, richest, and most influential places are often those that carry the greatest weight in times of purification, not as punishment, but as revelation. American cities, with their ceaseless energy, their skyscrapers that challenge the sky, and their metropolises that know no rest, have become centers where the interior conflict of the entire world takes concrete form. The East Coast has always been considered the symbolic heart of the modern West, and it is precisely there that a movement that cannot be ignored is perceived. New York, with its frenetic pulse and hidden vulnerability, appears as a city that will be touched by events capable of showing how fragile what seems indestructible is. The impact will occur not only through material phenomena, but especially through a collapse of certainties, a transformation that will break deep-rooted patterns, placing before the population's eyes what has remained in shadow for too long. Its lights will continue to shine, but behind them, a new awareness will make its way, the necessity of returning to a spiritual foundation that modernity had consumed. Further south, along the Atlantic coast, cities like Miami and the metropolises of Florida will experience a period of growing intensity. Here, the impact will be more evident, more physical, more linked to a movement of nature that has been showing clear signals for years. Water will advance, winds will be stronger, and the rhythms of life will be interrupted by events that will force people to seek protection not only in material shelters, but in an interior return that has been waiting to manifest for some time. It will not be a sudden collapse, but a crescendo that will shake the region multiple times, leaving a mark that will change the collective mentality. The Midwest, too, often considered distant from everything, will find itself involved in an unexpected transformation. Not through visible violence, but through a sudden slowdown, a blockage of habitual dynamics that will test economic and social stability. Cities like Chicago will feel a new weight, made of internal tensions that will emerge forcefully, of problems that will come to light as if a veil were finally lifted. What is managed today in the depths of urban systems will become evident, and the response of this region will be central to the country's future. Moving westward, the transformation takes on a different tone. The Pacific Coast states have already been for years the theater of signals showing the fragility of the Earth itself. Los Angeles will face a change that will strike not only physical structures but the entire cultural system built around image, speed, and the illusion of control. The shocks that will touch this region will be a powerful call, an invitation to understand that nothing without deep roots can resist when the time of revelation arrives. It will not be a single event, but a series of cracks, visible and invisible, that will force the population to recognize the precariousness of the constructed world. San Francisco and the cities of Northern California will experience something similar, but with a more marked spiritual intensity. Here, where innovation and fragility have always coexisted, the transformation will appear as a necessary passage to restore balance. The tensions of the earth will become a metaphor for interior tensions that can no longer be ignored. People will be pushed to seek answers that are not found in technology but in the heart. And while all this is happening in the United States, Medjugorje continues to remind us that warnings are never announcements of destruction, but calls to prepare the soul. Many messages have spoken of decisive times, of areas of the world more exposed, of cities that would bear the greater weight, not as punishment, but for purification. America, with its strength and vulnerability, is one of those places where the spiritual battle will be most visible. What will strike American cities will not be only the external manifestation of natural or social events, but an interior revelation that will cross communities like a silent wave. The metropolises will live through a time of transformation that will remove what has no foundation and strengthen what is authentic. Protection will not be born from possession, wealth, or technology, but from the capacity to remain firm in the moment when everything moves. In this scenario, the voice that comes from Medjugorje invites conversion, prayer, and vigilance to take on new meaning. Times change, cities tremble, structures break, but those who prepare internally discover a refuge that no event can touch. Cities will be struck, but not all in the same way. And what will emerge at the end of this process will not be devastation, but a rebirth that will have the face of those who remained firm when everything seemed to collapse. In Europe, the transformation will advance with a different rhythm, quieter, but equally incisive. Its cities, so dense with history, spirituality, and fragility accumulated over centuries, will become points of passage for a change that will reveal what has remained hidden for too long. Paris will be among the first to show this growing tension. Its streets, guardians of splendor and unease, will face a period in which social order will waver, allowing conflicts that have been smoldering for years beneath the surface to emerge. Not explosions, but fractures that will widen slowly, modifying the face of the city and pushing its inhabitants toward a profound awakening. Further south, Rome will bear the weight of a Europe that has lost its spiritual center. Its squares, laden with sacred memory, will live through a time of confusion that will test institutional stability and the very heart of Christianity. The tensions will not be only political, but above all, interior, as if the city were being traversed by a wind that shakes the soul even before the material structures. London too will enter this current of change. Migration flows, economic crises, and a sense of cultural disorientation will converge in a period of strong pressures that will force the city to confront its fractured identity. Not destruction, but revelation, a process capable of profoundly transforming the face of all Europe. Preparing for what is coming means understanding that the true battle is not fought in the noise of the world, but in the silence of the soul. It is not a war made only of external events, of sudden shocks or changes that strike cities and society. It is a spiritual battle, subtle and powerful, that decides who remains firm and who lets themselves be overwhelmed. In times like these, preparation becomes a daily work, a path that requires clarity, interior rootedness, and a firm will to remain in the light when everything seems to want to drag one downward. The first step is recollection. We live in a world full of distractions, of noises that consume attention and shatter peace. Preparing means withdrawing space from the superfluous, re-establishing order in thoughts, and creating an interior corner where the mind is not besieged. It is in this silence that strength is born, because what comes from above does not impose itself with clamor, but whispers to consciousness. Prayer and meditation then become indispensable tools, not as ritual gestures, but as anchors that allow the heart to remain centered even when the world trembles. Those who cultivate this calm become harder to bend, harder to deceive, harder to paralyze with fear. The second step is purity of heart. This is not about moralism, but about freeing the spirit from what weighs it down. Resentments, destructive habits, emotional dependencies, everything that wears down the most luminous part of us. This battle requires an energy that can flow only in those who have chosen to lighten the soul. The messages that have been arriving from Medjugorje for years never cease to remind us that the greatest protection is conversion, that interior transformation that brings the human being back to the truth of their vocation. A clear heart becomes a refuge, a fortress, a place that darkness cannot penetrate. The third step is vigilance, not fear, but attention. Observing what happens without being dragged along, recognizing the signs of the times without giving in to panic, perceiving the spiritual currents that traverse this historical moment. Those who are vigilant remain awake, do not let themselves be lulled by illusions, and do not fall into resignation. Vigilance is a shield that protects from deception and allows one to understand which direction to follow when everything seems confused. The fourth step is solidarity. No one goes through purification alone. Difficult times require hearts that support each other, hands that reach out, presences that choose to be light for others. Spiritual union creates an invisible but very powerful barrier, capable of repelling what divides and amplifying what saves. Where people build authentic bonds, fear loses power, and hope takes concrete form. The fifth step is trust. A trust that is not born from illusion, but from the certainty that nothing is permitted without a purpose, that every shock carries with it a revelation, that every purification prepares a renewal. Those who live with this trust do not waver, even when the world shows its deepest fractures. Now is the moment to strengthen the spirit, to light a flame that does not go out, to be ready, because the battle that is coming does not seek to destroy, but to reveal. And those who prepare will discover that true victory is born within, long before it manifests without.